While we do that, and while I wait for our special guest, I don't see him in here yet. Some housekeeping items. Last week, we talked about, or I demonstrated how I go about building out demographic circle prospecting lists and some of the marketing using PropStream, which is what we're going to talk about. The platform is what we're going to talk about today, and some recent updates and upgrades they've made to that platform. And I shot a part 2 of that and posted it in the group yesterday. The part two being launching the workflow in the ProEd CRM that I'm using for this side of it. So the email, the ringless voicemail, the text message, and it was actually like a 1-2 punch email wise. So that is in the group as well. If you missed last week or that, go check that out, or just let me know. I can get you the links to that. And if you have not already done so, you should absolutely, positively check out the free trial with PropStream at growwithjosh.com/PS. Growwithjosh.com/PS. Burton is in here, but it looks like maybe still working out the technical aspects of video and audio. So check that out. I am super excited. We had Burton on in October. I was actually on the road with my son. I think we were on our way to Florida at that point. And so we dug into some strategic filtering and some different things you can do. And then in November, they released some pretty cool and what I would call massive updates and upgrades to the platform. And number one, the UI. If you're a PropStream user, you may have noticed that the UI is a little, I don't know, more pleasing to the eye. It looks a little cooler, and that's great. But the bigger thing that I wanted to dig into today with Burton, and Burton, welcome, is the PropStream Intelligence and how we might all use that to find highly motivated sellers and do so before our competitors in our markets. So I selfishly, I've dug into it a little bit, but so I'm as interested and curious to learn about it as maybe all of you are, and start using that more when I, for example, do employ strategies that I talked about last week. So building a demographic circle prospecting list, for example. So Burton, thank you. Welcome. I want to squeeze
Morning.
as much good stuff out of this as possible. Well, why don't we go ahead and dig right in? And actually, one
Yeah.
last housekeeping item. If you have questions, if you're live in the Zoom room with us and you have questions, just drop it in the chat. If you're not live in the Zoom room with us, you can go to wakeup.realestate/M, wakeup.realestate/MM, or if you just like to watch the live stream in the group, that's fine too. If you have a question and you're watching in there, just drop it in the comments. And if you see me looking to my right, it's because I'm looking in there to monitor that and make sure that I'm not missing anything as far as that goes. Now, with that said, Burton, hello, welcome. Good to see you again.
Good
And
morning, Josh.
can't wait to dig in.
Yeah, let's dive right into it. Yeah, we got a pretty big announcement to share with you guys today, and that's our intelligence. So let's dive into it. Where do I start? So for those that already know what we do, for those that don't, let me just do a quick little overview. We're a data company. So our job, and we've been doing this since 2006, is we go buy data for you, county records, MLS data, mortgage records, situational data like divorces, pre-foreclosures, liens. We buy that data, we process it. There's this thing called the hygiene process where we make it nicer, cleaner, and we bring it into PropStream for you guys to then take advantage of. But what you do with that data in PropStream, two major things. You can either use PropStream for lead generation, or you can use PropStream to pull up a parcel, an address, and analyze that parcel. Get the information on that parcel, the taxes, other properties that owner has. So property information, lead generation. Okay, so that's what we've been doing for the last 18 years. And then all of a sudden AI started coming in and we caught on to it late teens, like I would say like 2018, 2019. We started looking into researching how AI can improve PropStream and help our user base. It took us a few years, but we finally were able to implement AI into our coding system. And so, again, our job is to go buy that data and streamline it to you. Hence, PropStream. PropStream Intelligence, what that is, for lack of a better analogy, if you've ever gone to the airport, it's TSA. That's what PropStream Intelligence is. So in the past, we get the data, we streamline it to you, you get to have fun with it. Today, that data is still going to be acquired the same way, but now it's going to go through PropStream Intelligence, do a few really cool things with that data set, and then you're still going to be able to manipulate it and analyze properties, except now with some new features along the way.
Beautiful.
So just want to explain what PropStream Intelligence is. It's just this new system that analyzes information on our behalf. It's going to expand, but right now we've instructed it to do two important things, and that's what we're going to be sharing today. So
Sweet.
let me share my screen. Josh, can I get the permission to do that?
Oh,
please?
yeah, I'm sorry. While I'm doing that, if you're watching in the group, do me a huge favor. Number one, or heart the video so we can hack the algorithm a little bit and make sure that more folks get to see this live and interact with us live. And number two, I would love to know in the comments, just yes or no, are you currently or have you ever used PropStream? I did put the link to the free trial in the comment feed over there as well. And Campbell asks, what's the Zoom link? It's wakeup.realestate/M. Wakeup.realestate/M is how you can hop over to the Zoom room live with us if you would prefer to do that.
So here, let me share my screen. And all right, so this is PropStream when you first log in. Now I see that there are some viewers who haven't used PropStream at all. Let me just give you a quick overview of what we do. Again, two things. We can allow you to do lead generation. And so what that means is you can use PropStream. We're a nationwide database, by the way. So you can search anywhere in the US. But yeah, I'm in Southern California, Orange County particularly, but I can search, let's say, I don't know, Cincinnati today. And when I pull up either a county, a city in this case, or a zip code, I'm then able to use PropStream's filtering system. So we have this filter system, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. And in our filtering system, you have 20 categories to choose from. So it could be an auction property, a bank owned, it could be a senior owner, a pre-foreclosure, maybe a deceased owner, an upside down property. So not only are you able to select any of our 20 categories, let's say I want the pre-foreclosures, but you have over 120 additional filters as well. So you can specify your property details. We have PropStream Intelligence filters, which we'll talk about today. We have MLS filters, so you can say I want it on or off market, or I want it recently failed on the market. Pre-foreclosure filters, ownership info filters, so you can look for an absentee-owned property, an out-of-state owner, a corporate-owned property, an individually-owned property, lien, bankruptcy, divorce filters, value and equity filters, and last but certainly not least, are mortgage filters. So I could look for a pre-foreclosure that has a 4% interest rate that's fixed if I wanted to, because I'm going to do something creative with that property, right? So lots of filters. Again, what people utilize PropStream for, one part of it is this: search a market. Let's find some motivated sellers or buyers utilizing these filters. And then once I apply these filters, I can view those 608 results I just created. I can save these properties and export that out of PropStream. Or we do have some additional resources, like I can skip trace these addresses, get a phone number or email. I can also use PropStream to send a postcard or email directly to them if I wanted to. So that's one aspect of PropStream, the lead generation. The other aspect is what happens if I do that and then 112 Asbury calls me back. The cool thing with PropStream is you can use the same search bar to type in an address to pull up property information. So again, I'm just showing everybody this. I know some of you guys have used PropStream, but for those that haven't used PropStream, this is what you can use PropStream for. You can search a market, generate leads. You can also type in an address and view the details of that property. So that way I'm not going into this conversation with the homeowner here blindly. I know the homeowner's first and last name, property information. I can go over the pre-foreclosure details on the property with them. I see at one point, or actually it's on market. I should probably put off market for this search, but this property is listed. It could fail, but it's listed. So I'll probably have to deal with the agent, and there's the agent's information if I need it. I can run my own comps using public or MLS records. PropStream provides demographics subject to the property, not the city or zip code, but the property. So within 1 mile of this property, there's more owners than there are renters. Maybe it's a fix and flip we need to do with this property. We also provide tax information, mortgage and transaction history, who the lender are, interest rates, loan amounts. We'll do the calculations for you as well. So this is what PropStream's all about. We've been doing this for 18 years, collecting data on your behalf, tons of data, and then giving you the ability to either generate leads or analyze property. Then November 8th came in, and that's when PropStream Intelligence kicked in. Okay, we're constantly just grabbing data and streamlining it to you, but now what we're doing is we're putting a middle point, and that's PropStream Intelligence. We're taking this data, some of it, and we're now utilizing AI to assist us with this data. And so PropStream Intelligence, what is it doing with this data? We've instructed it to do two important things right now. It's going to expand, but the two important things right now we've instructed to do is one, take a look at those MLS photos on our behalf and grade them for us. So that way I don't have to go through these photos and figure out what the condition of the property is. It's going to do it for us. So let's pull up a property that
This
I
is
pulled
fun. So
up
I was
yesterday.
playing with this before an hour ago, and this is one of the things that caught my eye and I was playing with is related to what Burton is talking about here. This is really cool.
So one of the things that we're going to do is, because we have MLS data, is our system is going to take that MLS data and it's going to run it through PropStream Intelligence. And what PropStream Intelligence is going to do is it's going to analyze the photos on those properties. So here's a property in North Carolina. When I go into the details, it looks just like the previous property we pulled up. The only difference now is there's this new bar. It says PropStream Intelligence right down in the middle. So forewarning, this isn't going to be on every single property, because not every property is going to be on the MLS. But here's the thing I like to say about PropStream Intelligence. It's a seed that's been planted. What our goal is to do is, because we constantly collect MLS data, is to analyze the photos. Because when an agent puts a property on the market, not only are they giving us the details of that property, MLS details, their description, but they're also uploading the photos of those properties. As you can see here, there's 17 photos that were uploaded when this listing was uploaded in 2022. So we're able to see the photos, see the agent's description, and then PropStream Intelligence goes to work for us. So you're not going to see PropStream Intelligence on every single property because A, not every property is on market, and B, we haven't been able to analyze the 175 million data sets that we have right now. So it's a seed that's been planted, and every day we're processing more and more of these data sets. So as we're processing the old data that we have, we also have to worry about the new data coming in every day. So you might search your market today, you might see 100 results. You might search it next week, and you might see 500 results because we were able to process more in the next few days. So this data set will grow. So first thing we've designed PropStream Intelligence to do is take a look at these photos and grade them for us. So take a look at this property built in 1946, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and analyze these pictures for me. Now, granted, I could do this myself. I don't need PropStream Intelligence to do this for me, but here's where it can get crazy. What if I decided to go into PropStream and search Charlotte, North Carolina, and say, okay, in Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm looking for all the failed listings that are residential single family properties. Now remember, that property had 17 photos. 9,300 properties. How many photos do you think I'm going to be able to go through in an hour? I'm not going to be able to do that. And that's where PropStream Intelligence kicks in. PropStream Intelligence is going to be able to analyze all those photos that are being uploaded by these realtors and agents. So they're doing us the favor. They're just doing what they normally do, except now PropStream Intelligence will analyze these photos and grade them for you. So based on these 17 photos, PropStream Intelligence labeled this property total condition as good. And look, based on the photo, everything's pretty good. And not only does it give you the entire condition, but it breaks down 4 separate areas too: the exterior, the interior, the kitchen, as well as the bathroom. And if you're wondering, good is pretty vague. What the hell does that mean? But we have a new intelligence tab here. So you can either click on the intelligence button here or hit this info button. Opens up the intelligence area. It talks a little bit more about PropStream Intelligence. It reminds you of what this property's condition is, and then the 4 separate areas. But to learn more about what good really means, you're going to want to hit this expand button next to how to interpret this data. So when you hit it, you're going to see all the possible grades a property can be graded. In this case, we see good. Now we can know what good means. So what does good means? It says here, features components with minimal wear and dated components have been recently replaced. Now, is that the case? Let's take a look. 1946. Remember, that's when this property was built. That doesn't look like a 1946 oven. So yeah, at one point along the way, it could have been 5 years ago, it could have been 10 years ago, the dated stuff was eventually replaced, right? Floor, cabinets, granite, even the appliances. Now it's not labeled luxury. Why is it not labeled luxury? Because luxury features new components with no signs of wear and tear. So if this property was a fix and flip, one of your projects that you just completed last week, and then your agent took pictures and put it on market, PropStream Intelligence would have identified that and labeled that as luxury. So this property, it's obviously based on the photos, it's not a fix and flip. So the AI was able to identify that. And then second thing, consists of above average appliances and finishes with some custom design elements. Right? And we could see that with the property. And last, rooms are amply sized. Now, again, why wasn't it labeled disrepair? Let's take a look at what disrepair represents. Features major damages or damage and or a condition that makes it unsafe or unsuitable to live. Now, again, for most of us who are fix and flippers, we'd probably look at this and be like, yeah, it's unsuitable to live because I would renovate it and make it nicer. But let's be realistic here. If I were to buy the property, I could move in right now and live in it and it'd be safe and comfortable, right? So for a fix and flipper, it's not a complete project. But for just a regular person, this is a livable home. It's not unsafe, right? There's no flooding. There's no mold growing. There's no roof in the ceiling. There's no broken windows. And if that was the case, the AI would have caught that and graded it even lower. So this is what PropStream Intelligence is doing. One aspect is it's going to start analyzing these MLS photos on our behalf and give us a grade. Now, again, this is all speculation. And again, everyone has their own definition of what good, disrepair, and luxury means, right? So the idea is it's just giving you a grade. It's almost like going to a dealer, a car dealer's. You walk out front, car says $20,000, but depending on what other things you're going to add to it or take away from it, that $20,000 could be plus or minus. And that's what it's saying here. Yes, it's good, but again, based on your eye, your definitions, you might label it excellent instead of good, or you might label it average instead of good. But the whole point is I don't have to go through 3,000 photos anymore, right? If I'm building a failed listing list, I don't have to go through every single listing on this list to see the photos and determine if this is tier A, a failed listing, or a tiered C or tiered F, and then go from there. PropStream Intelligence is doing that for me. So that's the first major thing we're instructing PropStream Intelligence to do, is to analyze these properties. And then we have a really good question. Dennis says, can you filter a property on condition? And the answer is yes. We are a lead generation company. And so, yes, you can definitely do that. You can search a market. And in our filtering menu, we have a new section called PropStream Intelligence. So I could say, yes, I am looking for, let's say, a property that didn't pay their taxes. And I want this property to be residential and single family. And you know what? I want it to be a fix and flip project. So PropStream Intelligence, since you have these property condition grades, here's what I want. Overall property condition, I want it between 4 and good. Don't go past good, because then there's no sense for me to even acquire it because I can't do any fixing and flipping to it. It's already been done. So everything from poor to good, tax delinquent, residential single family. I also have the ability to search based on conditions as well. Right. So if I want to just search a property that just needs a kitchen or a bathroom, that's what I can do. So you apply your filters just like normal, hit the view button, and there you have it. You're going to have your results. based on that. Okay. So yes, you can filter for it. So please take full advantage of that. So that's the first thing we're doing with PropStream Intelligence. And by the way, this is for everybody. We didn't like, this isn't no additional feature you have to pay for. Whether you had PropStream or you're going to sign up today, you're going to get this. Okay. But again, it's not going to be available on every property yet because not every property is on the MLS. But here's my opinion on that. I'm a firm believer eventually every property will be listed on the market. Now, granted, is there a property out there that's been passed down from generation and generation and generation and probably continue that way and never be listed? Yes, absolutely. But that's not the case for 90% of all the properties out there. And even in that scenario, even if it's been passed down from generation to generation, trust me when I say this, one generation is not going to make the greatest decisions out there. And they're going to probably have to sell the property eventually. Right? Tons of properties that have been owned for years eventually go on market. So in my opinion, again, this seed has been planted. Sure, this house down the street, 123 Main Street, hasn't gotten the PropStream Intelligence TLC yet, but when that house gets listed in 20 years and the photos get uploaded, best believe in 20 years, when it does, we're going to have all the information on that. So that's the cool thing I like about it is today, it's just a little seed that sprouted, and just imagine what this data set's going to look like in 10, 15, even a year from now, as it continuously analyzes this data and photos and all that stuff. So that's PropStream Intelligence, part one. Analyze these MLS photos on our behalf, give us a grade, not just the total condition, but interior, exterior, kitchen, and bathroom. And can I filter for it? Absolutely. That is now in our filtering menu under the PropStream Intelligence section. All right, so here's the second thing that we've instructed this PropStream Intelligence to do. So the first thing we took this, for a lack of better definition, it's predictive analytics and using machine learning. That's all it is, right? So it's just feeding it data. It's learning from that data we're feeding it, and then finding these similarities or indicators, as I would call it. So the first thing we instructed PropStream Intelligence to do was the MLS photo. The second thing we were instructing it to do, as I was sharing with you guys earlier, we have mortgage data. We're very aggressive with mortgage data. We not only collect up to 4 loan positions, which you could search for, by the way. We can tell you the loan type in most cases. We collect the interest rate on a property and the interest rate type as well. On top of that, we collect pre-foreclosure data. So we know when a house is notice of those pendants, notice of default, notice of trustee, or even notice of rescission when someone pays out of default, right? So we have that data. And not only do we have that data, but we also have demographics data, which I showed you guys earlier, subject to the property. So we know income brackets, we know how many owners versus renters in an area, education level, and all that stuff. So our team took PropStream Intelligence, said, hey, can we do something with our mortgage data and the pre-foreclosure data and the demographics and a few other data sets I can't get into too details on, but can we do something with that? And the answer was yes, we can. And what we came up with was this thing called a foreclosure factor. So now when a property gets that blessing, same bar, PropStream Intelligence, same property we were on now, but there is a new section on the very far right called foreclosure factor. So the foreclosure factor tells you the probability of this house going into foreclosure. And right now, this property is labeled low. Now, what does low mean? I'm glad you asked. In the intelligence section, there's an area called foreclosure factor at the very bottom. Reminds you what this property is labeled. But how do you interpret what low or 28 means? If you hit the expand button, you can see all the possible definitions that a property can be labeled on. Now, this property was labeled low. Why? And what does that mean? Let's take a look at what low means. Low, properties with a low likelihood of going into default have a score of 11 to 13. That's the case with this property. We got low of 28. Now, okay, what does 28 mean? Properties in this group and below are, okay, here's the key word, 21 times less likely to go into foreclosure than a randomly selected property. Now, I want to hone in on this really quick because it's all about the wording. It's the part with AI and all the fancy scientific stuff, okay? So 21 times less likely to go into foreclosure than a randomly selected property. I think that's the key word there, randomly selected property. So we're talking probabilities here. Here's what it means, okay? let's say we have 10 houses in the neighborhood. House number 1 was just bought last night. So in that sense, it's less than a year of ownership. And let's say not only was it bought last night, it was also built last week, right? So less than 1 year of ownership and a recently built property. And as we go to the next house, the next owner has owned it for 2 years, and that house is 2 years old, right? So you see what I'm doing here, right? We keep going. Eventually we get to house number 30. 30 years of ownership, and their 30-year note has finally been paid off. That's the whole idea here. And that's what randomly selected is saying, is that if we took 30 houses, one that's been built yesterday and owned for less than a year, and number 30 has been owned for 30 years, built 30 years ago, and now no longer has a mortgage, then the average is the number 15, which means that house is 15 years old and been owned for 15 years and has a 15-year note. That's what it's saying. It's just average. This house, compared to that average property, right? 15 years of ownership, 15 years old, 15-year note. This house is 21 times less likely to go into foreclosure. So it's actually more towards that 1 year of ownership, recently built property. Now, how is that the case with this property? I'll be honest with you, I could have figured that out myself. I don't even need PropStream Intelligence. But the cool thing is I don't have to do it myself anymore. And here's how PropStream Intelligence figured that out. The way I would have done it is we have this length of ownership. It's 2 months of ownership. Do you think someone who just bought a house 2 months ago is going to go into foreclosure anytime soon? I doubt it. As a matter of fact, we have the MLS data showing us that this property was bought 2 months ago for $670. See, so that's one way I would have figured out, yeah, this property is not going to go into foreclosure anytime soon. For sure, it's low. Here's another way I would have concluded that: the mortgage. I noticed that the mortgage had a balance of $568. It's only been 2 months. Actually, the recorded amount was $569,500. The purchase price is $670. The recorded loan amount, $569. What's the difference? That's the down payment. You're telling me a person with a $100,000 down payment and bought it 2 months ago is going to go into foreclosure anytime soon? No, they are 21 times less likely to go into foreclosure based on not just those two demographics, but again, we have pre-foreclosure data in North Carolina as well. So it's not just taking the mortgage data, the recording, the down payment, and the MLS data, the fact that it sold recently, but it's also taking into account the pre-foreclosure data and all these other homeowners, the 340 that are in pre-foreclosure, and the indicators. So are these homeowners in pre-foreclosure similar to this homeowner in Charlotte, North Carolina that we just pulled up? No, this homeowner is 21 times less likely than those homeowners going into pre-foreclosure. And that's what I love about foreclosure factor. So is there a filter for that? The answer is yes, because I know someone's going to ask that. Can I filter for that? Yes, there's actually a PropStream Intelligence section for that, foreclosure factor, and you can search for properties that have a low foreclosure factor. Or if you're looking for a motivated seller, I'd probably look for one that has like a medium high or high, and maybe make that your minimum. But here's why I like it personally, because to me, it's almost a confirmation of your lead generation. And we tested this the other day in a live demonstration. I had a demo here locally. I'm in Southern California, and we did a demo out in Orange County, and we found this property. Now, we didn't just randomly pull the property. The idea was, let's do list stacking. Someone said, can you list stack with PropStream? And what that meant was, can you just go into an area and pick 2 different categories? In this case, I think it was like they wanted pre-foreclosure and I think failed listing. So we went and selected pre-foreclosure like I'm doing here. And then we went into the MLS section and we also selected failed listing. Okay, so we weren't even talking about foreclosure factor. We were just talking about list stacking. So we did that with this one property. We went into Laguna Beach, or was it Laguna Niguel? And we said, okay, let's look for pre-foreclosures that failed. And we randomly selected this property. We went into the detail. And lo and behold, the PropStream Intelligence had blessed it. And what we discovered was it confirmed what we were going through. It said, hey, the foreclosure factor of this property is at 98%. It's very high. And again, if you want to know what that means, you can go into the intelligence area here, interpret this data, hit expand, and very high properties in this group are 6 times more likely to go into foreclosure than that randomly selected property. Now, How did it conclude this? The obvious one was that it's currently in pre-foreclosure. So that's a given one. But just because it's in pre-foreclosure doesn't mean it's going to go into foreclosure. See, that's a thing. You can never guarantee the probability that, oh, just because I didn't pay my mortgage for 6 months, I'm going to now have to auction my property. No, I could probably get a payday advance and pay for that default and extend my time a little bit, or finally pay the bill and get off pre-foreclosure. So just because someone's in pre-foreclosure doesn't naturally make it 100%. No. But here's why it went closer and closer to 100%. There's also a lien on that property. There's an HOA lien on that property of $1,200. And not only is there an HOA lien on the property, that property failed on the market earlier this year. So you have a homeowner who hasn't paid their mortgage and now they're in pre-foreclosure. So time is ticking. Right? We don't have an auction date yet, thankfully, but time is ticking. Right? It's actually in the hands of a trustee right now. So they're just slowly waiting to put a date on it. You're not paying your HOA, so we know there's some financial issues too. Now your HOA wants their money. And you tried to sell it earlier this year in January, but guess what? It didn't sell. It fell on the market for $1.4 million. So you've exhausted that option. And based on the demographics and other people in pre-foreclosure in this area, PropStream Intelligence indicates that this homeowner is very likely to go into foreclosure, right? Because you've exhausted trying to sell it on market, you have liens now, and you're in default. So if you don't figure it out, your options, the probability is going to go. Now we can't, again, give it 100%. There's never going to be 100%, because you guys might call this homeowner right now and then give them a cash offer and then problem solve. And that's the thing. We're never going to give a property 100%, is because there's no such thing as 100%. There's always a way out in most situations. But this is what I liked about the foreclosure factor, is it not only can be filtered for, but when you're building your lists, especially when you're doing list stacking, you're wondering, man, is this a motivated seller I'm looking at? That foreclosure factor is only going to confirm your list building. And if you don't want to build lists to try to figure out how high that foreclosure factor could go, again, in our filtering, we have PropStream Intelligence. You can just go in there and say, look, I need a tax delinquent property with a high foreclosure factor, not only a high foreclosure factor, but the property condition doesn't exceed good. So you're a motivated seller, the property's condition is good, and your foreclosure factor is pretty high. That's who I'm looking for in this market. And that's PropStream Intelligence. That's what we just launched November 8th. And as I'm talking now, it's constantly growing. And keep your ears tuned, because as I said earlier, PropStream Intelligence is not these two things. It's a system. It's the whole being able to process the data and then do something with that data. Right now, we're processing the data and giving it two things to do: photos, MLS, and our mortgage data. There's more to come. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but tune in. You're going to see a new feature come out, hopefully the first or second quarter of next year. But PropStream Intelligence is here to stay. It's a new machine learning and predictive analytics system that we've added. It should benefit not just you guys when you're analyzing properties, but the lead generation aspect as well.
We've got some great questions in both the Zoom chat and the comments on the live stream. Before we get into those, because I can't help myself and because I get excited, while Burton was talking there, I was in my PropStream account because I was playing around with it earlier, and then I didn't even notice the foreclosure factor when I was playing around with it earlier. So I pulled a list real quick in my county. Now I'm in a rural, the county I live in is pretty rural. Like the whole population is 200,000. So I went my whole county. And not only that, I can cover my whole county because of where I'm located pretty easily. And so I pulled my whole county. I went foreclosure factor high or very high, right? Because if you choose high as the minimum, it's very high. I wanted single family. I wanted at least a 1/4 acre lot, because in my county, because it's rural, and just this is important to know, the data in PropStream is only as good as the data PropStream can get. Right? So don't get mad at PropStream because the data in your rural county is just not very current or ideal. And why I say that is there are lots of old row homes that are marked as single family properties. They're not, it's just that, but that's not PropStream's fault. That's because Cumberland County is just old and antiquated. However, the workaround is add in the acre size, right? Because there aren't any row homes that have a quarter acre. Anyway, so I did foreclosure factor, high to very high, single family, at least a quarter acre, have owned for 5 years, and have at least 20% equity. 1,200 properties. 1,200 properties. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
And I love that you're using it already. And that's the intent. Again,
Yeah.
Can we do this ourselves with list stacking? Yes, absolutely. But that's the cool part about AI. It's again, for me, the important part, especially with the foreclosure factor, is it's not just guessing, it's looking at the pre-foreclosure data that's already out there. It's looking at demographics, it's looking at trends, and it's looking at that mortgage data specifically, what your interest rate is, who your lender is, when it was recorded, and it's putting it together. And it's not saying that this person's gonna go into it's just looking for indicators, similarities, if anything, from one pre-foreclosure to a person that is not in pre-foreclosure and potentially giving you a hint. So
And
I
for
love
us, we're
that
just
you're
looking
using
for
that.
someone that maybe has a little bit more than normal motivation.
There you go. I love that. Fernando has a really good question. Fernando's question is, can you filter for good deals that are
This was
active
a
on the
wonderful question.
MLS?
I had not thought of this possible use. I love this idea.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. In our filtering menu, so if I go to Cincinnati, Ohio, like we did earlier, in our filtering menu, we have our MLS section. And in this MLS section, there's a keyword search that you can use. So you first want to say on market, yes, I want something on market. And then keyword search, again, this is all up to the agent if they have it in their description, but good deals. You would just put that in the keyword search. And if anything are available, looks like one property had that in their description. Queen City, here's the address. When I go into that property, I'm able to go into the MLS details of that property and see why it had good deals in it. Fernando, great question. Can I search for good deals? If you're referring to the descriptor in the MLS details, the answer is yes. In our MLS filtering, you have an area right there. That's why it came
I
up.
think we might do an
Good
entire
deals.
mastermind session, Fernando, on this topic because I see lots of other ways that you might
Oh yeah,
use the
you could do
filtering
it
to
for
find.
needs TLC. I've seen people do that.
Yeah.
Great for a flipper. You can do that. So there's 8 that needs TLC. So that look into that.
Motivated seller.
There you go, David. I love what you're thinking. Motivated. Just think of what an agent would use to try to market their property. You guys are agents too, right? So what would you put in your description? Another agent's going to do that as well. And so the idea is let's reverse engineer that. How can we use that to our advantage? So Fernando, I love that you're thinking that way. So yeah, good deals would work. You could put that in the keyword search, needs TLC, needs some bathroom remodeling, or even just the word remodel. You'd be surprised. Needs remodeling. I wouldn't put remodel because you might come across newly remodeled and probably don't need that one. But yeah, you definitely can search for that. And then James, since this is
Hold on,
oh wait,
hold on,
wait.
Burton. I want to, before we get into James. So, Fernando, honestly, we'll do a whole session on this. But here's another. I get excited about this stuff. You could choose on market, and maybe you choose days on market, 45 plus, and you could also look for if they have an FHA or VA loan, because it might be assumable. So you could approach the agent and say, would your client, who's been sitting on the market here for 30 to 45 days, would they consider selling and allowing my client to assume the current 3.5% interest rate on the FHA? I'm just riffing here, but there are lots of ways that it hadn't even occurred to me to use it for your buyer clients to find hidden motivation. You can do the obvious stuff in your MLS, like they've been on the market for a while and they've had multiple price reductions, right? That's the obvious, easy stuff. But you could go in here and get pretty ninja with some of those additional things. You could go and look for the ones that have been listed 30 days or more and have a high foreclosure factor and have equity.
Ooh.
They might be more motivated. They might be open to entertaining offers, right? So there's some really good ideas there, but I don't want to open Pandora's box here because we've only got 15 to 20 minutes left. Now, James's question,
Oh,
because this is a good one.
James. Yeah. Oh, actually, I didn't see that. Fernando had a second part. Fernando, the second part's right here, listed below market price. You could just hit include.
Oh,
That should
look at that.
answer your second part.
Wait a minute.
So,
Just a filter for that?
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So,
that's where I was trying to get to, because you take the automated valuation value compared to the list price. I was wondering if the AI did that, and then
yeah, we did.
boom.
So it's essentially, to your point, it's find me a property on market that's below our estimated value. And that's very important that you said, because our AVM was uplifted with AI data earlier this year. So that estimated value is utilizing not just MLS data and public records sold data, but it's taking into account court rulings, government like decisions, elections, and stuff like that. So in this property, it's listed at $300,000 when our algorithms say that this market is about 350, 358.
Man,
Thank you.
like
You just
my,
made my
you're
day.
definitely doing an entire session on this because
Yeah.
number one, you could go and make that list. You got the number. That is a wonderful marketing message that you can send to your existing
Completely.
database or even use on socials. Hey, we just put together a list of 29 available properties here in Central PA where the list price is below the projected fair market value. Would you like to check out that full list?
Yep.
Yes, people will want to see that. And the other thing with that is when you do that, that can also help buyers that maybe they're using government, so the FHA or VA or USDA. If there's a value grade there, we might be able to, or I'm sorry, a value gap there, we might be able to make an offer over asking, get seller help, and do some things where you might they might be losing out or whatever, or minimize their out of pocket. There are so many ideas here just from that. That's just one
that
one way to
thing.
use the tool. Sorry, Burton.
No, I love that, because this is the whole purpose of having these sessions, is to share ideas back and forth. And if it sparks an idea for another person, it's only going to carry on, right? So
Yeah.
I love that. And then James, your question failed. We do have that, but here's the thing. Actually, this was uplifted 3 weeks ago as well. So in the past, when you went into our MLS section, we did have 5 statuses only available, and it was active, pending, contingent, sold, and failed. Now, when you hit show all, you have all the options available. So in our efforts to aggressively get MLS data, meaning we're trying to directly connect with these boards, and we've been lucky with a few of them. Some of them, not so much. We still have to get them through other means, but we're getting there. But in our efforts to aggressively get this data, we were able to obtain some statuses that we've never seen before, like active under contract, coming soon. And what we discovered is failed listing is actually an umbrella of many different things, such as removed, delete, canceled, expired, and withdrawn. And we didn't realize that. So what was happening is, in the past, people were doing, oh, I want a failed listing. And then they were actually coming across a property that was withdrawn or canceled. So you don't have to do failed anymore. You could just say, hey, I want something that's expired, and that's it. I want it expired. I don't want something that failed. I want the ones that are actually labeled expired. And then not only can you select exactly the status you're looking for, but you can couple it with the days on market feature too. Like, I want it not only expired, but they were on market for a minimum 40 days.
Or what I would recommend, if you're going to use this for expired data, make sure that you choose that they're not on the market, right? Because sometimes I get expired data, and I find that, and this is usually listing agent user error, there are properties that show expired and active at the same time. And it's because I don't know. I don't know if there was multiple MLSs involved. Who knows?
That is the answer right there. There is typically two things that are involved in that case. Actually, I would say 3 things, because you have to involve us as well. So the first one is us. We're not able to obtain the data. That's obvious. Right. But then the other 2 things that are what we just can't control is pocket listings. You got this issue with pocket listings out there. And then, as I mentioned, the direct feed. So for some of the MLS boards where we as a company are not able to get the IDX, RETS, or VAL feed directly from the brokerage, we have to obtain it through other means. I can't tell you exactly how we're able to obtain it, but because we have to go through a different route, there's a delay. And that delay, again, you could see it happen where property fell off market on January 1st. We don't get the listing until maybe January 7th. And so by that time, the property is already listed again, right? So on January 7th, we get the, oh, it's off market now status, but it just went on market again the day before, and we haven't received that data until a few days later. So there are some logistics involved as well. So those are the three main reasons, as you might see some discrepancies. It's either us or the sources. In this case, it's the feed not being direct, or it's most likely a pocket listing when it comes to MLSs.
A couple of housekeeping things before back to questions and comments. If you haven't already grabbed your free trial with PropStream, if we haven't gotten you excited enough to grab that, I don't know, you may have to check your pulse. growwithjosh.com/PS, growwithjosh.com/PS. And I have several folks asking, is this recorded? So it is, A. B, it is immediately available on demand in the Facebook Live group. And then we also get this, we add it to our YouTube channel, we add it to wakeup.realestate, etc. If you can't find it for any reason or another, just reach out to me and I'll get you the recording one way or another. Campbell, I see your hand up, but let me address some comments that have been waiting, and then a follow-up question from James that beat you on the hand raise. So I had a couple, somebody asked, how do you obtain the emails? That's a skip trace function that's baked right into PropStream. You can append email and phone numbers, and it scrubs against the DNC. And then in one of the things that I mentioned at the beginning of this in housekeeping yesterday, I did a little part 2 to my session last week, which showed how I take that skip trace data and then how we market to them by email, by text if they're not on the DNC, by ringless voicemail if they're not on the DNC, and how we even take that appended data and add it as a custom audience on Facebook. Actually, that was part of the original session last week, and you can market to them as well, which is what I think I'm going to do with that list that I mentioned, the high foreclosure factor. I'm gonna append that big old bucket of data. I'm gonna market to them for the next 12 months with direct mail, email, ringless, text, and digital media. And maybe I'll turn that into a year-long case study, because that's pretty cool. Then another question, Wes was asking, how do you get the foreclosure factor? I mean, in my account, I don't see it. It's possible that maybe you were looking at a specific property that didn't have it, but if you go to the filtering and you choose PropStream Intelligence, you can specifically filter by that data. Then it'll only pull properties that the data is available for.
And remember, not every property is going to have the foreclosure factor, because we haven't either blessed it or it doesn't have a mortgage. Again, the foreclosure factor revolves around having a mortgage on that property.
And then one more thing before, Campbell, is there assumable data baked into PropStream? James, what I was referencing there is you can filter by the mortgage type, and FHA and VA mortgages are assumable. So you could filter by just, oh yeah, I forgot, when you do the peace sign, you get the balloons in Zoom now. And then if you do this, you usually get something else firing up, whatever. Didn't work that time. But yeah, that's how you can filter specifically for that. Is it 100% foolproof and accurate? No, none of anything is, right? But it's just, it helps you work a little bit smarter and not harder. Campbell, I don't know. I don't think I have to. You should be able to unmute yourself. Yes, I think you did.
Yes, I can.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. 2 quick questions based off what I'm hearing. I'll make sure I'm hearing it correctly. You're saying that your expired data is typically running 4 or 5 days behind. Is that correct?
No, not 4 or 5 days. It depends on the data set, because there's 770-ish MLS boards nationwide. We're not connected with every one of them directly. And so what that means is, as a company, we update every day. Our job is to ask these data providers, so whether it's a pre-foreclosure company, a mortgage company, or the MLSs, we ask them every day, what do you have? They don't have everything they don't have something to provide every day. But I will say MLS data is our fastest out of all the data sets out there. So it depends on the market that we're in. Some markets we're live data, so you'll get the same feed the same day. Some markets,
Are you
like
live for
Josh's point,
FMLS?
I don't know that answer directly. I don't have the, you do have to
Can
call
we
our customer
send you an
support.
email to find out about that?
Support@propstream.com would be your best bet there. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's to
And-
answer your question. It varies on the market. Best way to check really is to just go into that market. So you can just go to, let's say I'm curious on Philadelphia's market. Go to Philadelphia, click on the MLS data set, and then you can actually click on this little arrow right here. I'm going to go back to that. Right by the results, there's a little arrow that you can click on. And then there's a last update. You can either click on that or even the list
look at
date
that.
column. And this is a really good question, Campbell, because we deal on a nationwide level and we don't know when data sets are going to update across the board. For example, some data sets we know are going to update on a frequency basis. Like vacant data, we get that once a month from the United States Postal Service. So we know when a property is not answering their mail every month. That's the United States Postal Service. What we don't know is when someone passes away. That's our probate data. So we can't tell you, hey, check out the updates coming in next week because we got like 10 more people dying this weekend. That we don't have. So what we did as a company is we understood there's so many different probabilities out there. We started creating things like the ability to save your search. So if I wanted a deceased owner who has equity and has a minimum of 5 properties, let's say I want to see that anytime it happens, I create that search and then I hit the save button here at the top of our filtering menu to not only save that search, but to establish email notifications. So that way I don't have to search every day. It emails me when it identifies that type of record with that type of filter I want. And if you want to take it up a notch, look into our settings area. There's a feature in our add-on service called List Automator, Campbell. And what that does is it takes it up a notch. You build a list and then you can automate it. There's this automated area in your My Properties. And so for like my Fulton County liens that are vacant, non-owner occupied, right now there's 38 addresses in this list. But because I automated it, this morning I'm being told I need to add 29 new records to this list. I didn't have to do the search. It's just telling me, hey, you got to add 29 to it. And 5 of them need to be removed as well because one of them just went on market. So we have this list automation for this very question is that, hey, when are you guys doing updates? The answer is it could happen any given day. We ask for our providers every day for the data, but that data could come to us on a Monday, on the 15th, on the 28th. So we included tools like automation to assist you. That way you can build 5 different lists with 5 different filters, automate each single one of them, and get notifications on when you're getting these new records.
We might have
Can
to
we
do a
push
session
these
in the next
directly?
couple weeks on the List Automator. Sorry, Campbell, I know you had more questions. Go ahead.
Josh, will these be pushed directly to Go High Level?
No, we don't have an open API. So once you get your list created, you will have to manually export it. So you would have to click on your list like I'm doing right now. Just check off the results within your list like I'm doing right now. And then there's an export button here. Go ahead
But
and
just
click on
typical
that.
export import. Okay.
Yes,
correct.
Campbell, what I do is we scrub it before we import it, meaning like if it's a DNC number, we just scrub it from the list entirely. So there's no chance that it ends up in Go High Level and there is a little bit of a manual piece to that. But if you have a VA or if you're good with spreadsheets, it's not that hard to do that to help CYA, as they say.
Okay. And the thing that y'all said about the skip tracing, does the data come with it initially, or do you have to buy all that to go along with it?
That's a great question. So the data, so for the $99 a month, you just get the basic information, which is the property details, the owner's name, mailing address, and subject property's address. So if you need a phone number or an email, you do need to skip trace with us, Campbell, and it's 12 cents an address. There's no minimum or maximum, so you can skip trace 1, 10 properties, or even 100 properties. So it's 12 cents an address, and here, I think I have a list that you can see what it would look like when you do skip trace. I think this is the full, yeah, here's the Fulton liens, the one we were just talking about. So this is that marketing list we clicked on, the Fulton liens, skip traced, so you can see the mobile numbers. Oh, where did it go? Oh, my line.
It's been doing that to me too.
It's like moved to another
sometimes you have
area.
to hit refresh or just wait a minute. Sometimes like
what it is, Josh, is it does this auto refresh because of the fact that it's waiting for your order to complete. So I think that's what's happening. It auto refreshes and it gets you off your list, but I'll let the team know about that. But Campbell, to answer your question, here's a list of properties that were skip trace. have the mobile number section, a landline section. If it's DNC, you'll see it right next to the number. So this landline is on the do not call. And then
Yep.
Some
You
of them
only
come with
pay, you only pay if it was able to append. So when you do
Correct.
it through PropStream,
got it.
it'll tell you like worst case scenario, meaning this is the most you'll pay for this skip trace order. You'll rarely pay that amount because you can see there's a couple in there that there was no.
We don't charge you for
Yeah.
the ones that you don't get results on. So it's only 12
Got it.
cents an address, and it's 12 cents if you get results back. So for Sheila, I wasn't charged at all for her, but for Tori, I was.
You can also export the data prior to that. And if you have another skip trace service that you're using or whatever, you can certainly do that. Or if you're just going to use direct mail initially and you don't want to append the data, all of that, you get up to 10,000 saved records per month for the 99 after the free trial. And there's no contracts, long-term commitments, any of that. You can literally turn it on and off by month. If you get a bunch of data and you don't need it for a while, just shut her down for a little while and you can reactivate when you need it.
Josh, two more quick questions.
Yep.
Josh, I've already using my plus leads. What gap will this fill that I'm not getting there?
The bazillions of other ideas that we threw out here. So, for example, it's literally unlimited. So I primarily use My Plus for FSBO and expires. This is
Same for me.
at other data. For example, last week I did demographic circle prospecting. So we just went under contract with, I had the buyer client and I want to market to that neighborhood about the fact that it's pending under contract, and I'm going to let them know also when it actually closes. So I built that list in there and I layered some of the filters. Now I didn't use some of the things that we showed today, some of the PropStream Intelligence, but I did things like it has equity and I don't even remember, but it's on last week. So that's, yeah, My Plus Leads is a very niche product and it's great. You're only limited by your imagination when it comes to this.
Got it.
Or it's
Now,
like
that circle prospecting, I assume you're going in and doing a digital marketing campaign to them, voicemail,
Yep.
text, and email to let them know about your new listing in that area.
Yep.
Now,
And
final
direct
question.
mail and digital media. I upload them as a custom audience. And so I'm hitting them as many different boxes as I can. Mailbox, email inbox, voicemail box, text inbox, if that's an inbox.
And the final question for Bert. It is Cyber Week, so what's the special you guys are offering? Half off or what? You got to be
Actually,
doing
on our-
something for
no,
something in Tuesday.
We are actually, if you go to our main website, propstream.com, at the very top, there's a buy one, get one promo that we're doing. Actually,
I didn't even know that. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
so-
yeah, but putting them on the spot. I didn't even
Yeah,
know.
so go,
Well, it's
go,
the week
go
for
in there.
discounts for everybody.
Yeah.
And you should see that at the very top. But that's the one I believe is going on. But don't quote me on that. I think it might have ended this week, this Monday.
I'm not
So
seeing anything on your website right now.
Then
I'm on
that's-
PropStream.
it might have ended. But here, we're you didn't hear this from me, but we're really, really flexible. Call customer support. Just here, let me
For
put
the free trial with my link and then call customer support.
Yeah, call
for the
customer
Cyber
support.
Monday deal.
Just be like, hey, I saw it over
And blame
the
it on
weekend. I didn't get a chance. I was too busy
What
with
was it?
family.
So we know what we're asking for, Bert.
It's
what
a
it was?
it was a buy one get one. You buy 1 month, you get the next month for free.
So you get 60 days for the price of 30, basically.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's our customer support number. I would just play the fool. Just say, hey, I saw it this weekend. I just too busy.
Never heard it from you.
Yeah, you didn't hear it from me, guys, but we're really kind. Like we want to make sure everyone takes advantage of it.
So we try to keep these to 60 minutes to respect everyone's time, especially Burton when we have special guests. There's a couple other quick questions. And then if you have more questions beyond what we can chat here today, reach out to me, send me a DM, call me, text me, email me, whatever. Mike, I'm just going to say G because I'm not going to try and pronounce your last name. Mike asked on our live stream, can you stack lists to find motivation? That's that's like the reason why I got started with PropStream, because you can layer on as much as you want. Now you may dwindle your list down to nothing, but you can play with stacking to figure out, okay, where is the point of disconnect? What is the filter that is breaking the list? So when I Mike, I mentioned that as Burton was talking about the foreclosure factor, I went my whole county, single family with at least an acre lot that have owned for 5 years, that have at least 20% equity and have a high or very high foreclosure factor. That is a beautiful thing. Mike G also asked, can I upload a list to filter out? I think, can you upload like a exclude list? I'm not sure. You would do that. I would do that outside of PropStream. Like I would get your data and then I would, sorry.
Well, we do have, so that List Automator feature I talked about earlier that automates your leads. So there's another part to that, which is it allows you to import outside data. So let's say I got a list. Let's say I go golfing with a divorce attorney and he gave me this divorce list before anybody else gets it. That divorce list is not going to have mortgage information. It's not going to have property details, and it's not going to have comping in it, right? So I could take that list and import it through List Automator and get all that information through PropStream.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's your question. Can I import an outside list and get your data? Yes, you can, but you have to use List Automator to do that. The other alternative is you just search address by address by address, and that takes a long time. But if it's like less than a dozen, I would just search address by address. But if I have a list of 100 properties I need data for that I got elsewhere, look into List Automator's import feature. There's actually a help video in our resource. If you go to our main page and click on resources, there's a video library. Look up List Automator import, and it shows you how to do that.
It's been a while since we've done it, but we have imported lists and then used the skip trace to skip trace that. So we pulled a list.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we pulled a list from Remind. Now you have to make sure that the spreadsheet, the data is formatted correctly so PropStream can accept it. But that we've done that. Again, it's been a while.
Yeah, so you can import to get our data. You can import to skip trace. You can import to market. We even have a filtering system too, so you can import and filter. So you could say, hey, take this list, give me the data, and find me all the assumable loans in this list I just imported. So you can filter.
Beautiful. All right. So some housekeeping things as we come in for a landing. Number one, if you haven't already, you should definitely grab your free trial at growwithjosh.com/PS. I have my complete list of recommended resources, software, tools, etc. at growwithjosh.com/tech. You should also find those links with this video above or below somewhere with that. Next week, and Fernando, I would have pivoted to your idea for next week, but I already have that scheduled. So I think what I'm going to do is take your idea, and I'm going to record myself just off the cuff. Here are the different ways I can see using that piece of the functionality here, because next week I want to talk about 3 uncommon or unusual ways or strategies for getting more clients in your pipeline this winter, specifically during a time that, like for me in my market, the market slows down. It gets really cold. You layer on the holidays and all of that stuff. And these 3 strategies are things that I am employing to make sure that I keep growing my pipeline, and I'm not in a feast and famine mode this winter. And I want to share those with you all next week. So that'll be a fun session. The replay of this will be available immediately after we're wrapped up here. And I mentioned it several times, but if you have questions or you want to brainstorm or strategize specifically for yourself as it relates to PropStream or any of the other tools and strategies that we've been talking about over the last few weeks or months, just shoot me a DM, send me a text, give me a call, schedule a time at josh15.com, whatever the case may be. Burton, as always, I appreciate you. I think I'm going to probably grab a spot on your calendar for January, have you back just to check in and see.
If we're lucky, we might be able to go over the new PropStream Intelligence stuff that will be
beautiful.
So thank you, Josh, so much for doing all this.
Thanks, everybody. Make it a great rest of the week, and hopefully see you next week. Same place, same time.